Welcome. We're about to tackle a question that sounds super simple on the surface, but wow, does it get to the very heart of how our entire world works. The question is this: if a country has a ton of debt, or if it wants to get rid of poverty, why not just print a whole lot more money? All right, let's really get into this, because, it's a question a lot of us have probably thought about. And the answer, well, the answer tells us a story about what money even is. It turns out firing up the printing presses isn't the magic fix you might think it is, and the reasons why are pretty fascinating. So to really get this, we have to agree on one big idea first, and that is money isn't wealth. I know, that sounds weird, but that piece of paper in your wallet, on its own, it has basically zero value. It's just paper. So where does all its power actually come from? I love this quote. It nails what's called the Tinkerbell effect. Think about it. Tinkerbell only exists if you believe in her. And modern money? It's exactly the same. Its value isn't tied to what it's made of. It's tied to our collective belief, our trust, that it's worth something. If we all woke up tomorrow and decided it wasn't, it would just be paper again. This brings us to this term, fiat money, and pretty much all the money we use today is fiat money. Now, this is a massive change from how things used to be. There isn't some giant vault of gold somewhere that you can go trade your cash for. The value comes completely from the faith we have in the government that issues it. It's all about trust. And you can see this whole journey right here. I mean, we started out by just trading actual stuff, things that had their own value, like salt or gold. Then we moved to paper that represented that stuff. And then came the big one, 1971. That's when the US dollar completely cut its ties to gold and basically the whole world followed. So now, trust is the only thing backing our money. Okay, so if it's all based on trust, what do you think happens when a government starts, messing with that trust by just creating tons of money out of thin air? Let's use a really simple analogy to see why this is so dangerous. Imagine a tiny little economy. The only thing for sale in this entire economy is bread. There are 5 people, and the town baker just made 5 fresh loaves. That's it. That is the total amount of stuff available. Now, let's say each of those 5 people has exactly $5. And what do you know? Each loaf of bread costs $5. Everything's in perfect balance, right? There's $25 in the whole economy, and every person can afford exactly 1 loaf. Simple. But then, the government decides it wants to make everyone feel richer. So it prints more money and just gives everyone another $5. Just like that. So now everyone is holding $10 instead of 5. So here's the big question. Everyone has double the cash. They're all feeling pretty good about it. But the baker didn't magically bake more bread. There are still only 5 loaves. What happens next? You guessed it. The price of bread just doubles to $10. The baker looks around, sees everyone has more money to spend, and raises the price. The result? Nobody is actually richer. They can still only buy 1 loaf of bread. That is inflation. It means your money is now worth less than it was before. Now, this isn't just some cute story about bread. When governments in the real world forget this basic rule, the consequences are, well, they're catastrophic. This is when inflation turns into something much, much scarier. It's called hyperinflation. We're talking about prices rising by more than 50% in a single month. In the most extreme cases, it just completely destroys an economy. It makes people's life savings totally worthless, literally overnight, as prices start doubling every day or even every few hours. And history is just littered with these terrifying examples. Look at Germany after World War I. They printed money to pay war debts, and the price of a loaf of bread shot up to 200 billion marks. Or Hungary after World War II, where prices were doubling every 15 hours. And more recently in Zimbabwe, people literally needed to haul wheelbarrows full of cash just to go buy groceries. This is what it actually looks like. Governments start printing money with just absurd numbers on them. This is a real banknote from Zimbabwe for $100 trillion. But just adding all those zeros doesn't add any real value. A note like this was basically worthless the second it came off the printing press. Okay, so if the risk is that insane, you might be wondering, do governments ever create new money today? And the answer is yes, but it's done in a way that's way more complex and controlled. They're not just handing out stacks of cash anymore. Today, the tool they use is often called quantitative easing, or just QE. So during a big crisis, like in 2008 or 2020, central banks create new money, but it's all digital. And, this is the really important part, they don't give it to people. They use it to buy things like government bonds from the big commercial banks. This pumps more cash into the banking system, which hopefully lowers interest rates and encourages those banks to lend more money, which gets the economy moving again. So all of this really proves that a country's wealth has nothing to do with how much paper money it can print. Real, actual wealth comes from something much more, well, real. I mean, really, there are two paths. You can print more money, which just leads to inflation, devalues everything, and completely destroys trust. Or you can create real value. You can increase a nation's actual productivity. That means making more things and offering more services that people actually want and need. At the end of the day, a country gets richer by becoming more productive. It's not about printing more pieces of paper. It gets richer by investing in its people, in new technology, building better roads and bridges, and just creating a system where businesses can actually grow and make real stuff. And that's really the core of it all. You just can't print your way to being rich. Real wealth has to be created. Which leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. If a country's real wealth is all about its productivity, in a world where technology is changing so fast, what does that mean for the future of money itself?